I've had many conversations with people that told me, bro, I got kicked out of the house at 15 years old. I got put out of the house at 16 years old. I had to fend for myself at the age of 17 because my folks said I couldn't live there anymore for this reason and that reason and that reason and this reason. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, you know what? That's insane. That is stupid. If you're a parent and you're thinking about kicking your child out at the age of 18, you're basically sabotaging their future because nobody has it all figured out at the age of 18. Nobody really even has it figured out at the age of 21. You feel me? I moved away from home when I was about 26 years old. I was probably ready to do it at about 24, but I took about 2 years to stack up money. I had got my first real job, and then when I had about $10,000 in the bank, I went out, found a place of my own, and a short couple of months later, I got married. I don't think that there should be a particular age where a person just moves out of the house. I feel like that has to be a decision in which you make utilizing your own discretion. Where are you financially? Where are you mentally? What is the economic situation like in your city? It may not be the same as it is in my city. It just really depends. What is your plan? Folks, when you step out into this world, you leave your parents' house, that's when it gets real. That is when it gets heavy and you are literally on your own, paying bills, working, going to the grocery store, this endless cycle of surviving that begins the moment you leave mom and dad's house. And you know something? Sometimes life happens to people later on down the line. I've known people who were like 45 years old and they lost their job and they had to go back and live with their parents for a time period. Some people think that that is downgrading. They feel embarrassed about it, but I don't think that's anything to feel embarrassed about. Consider it a blessing from God if you have your parents in your life for you to be able to do that. I watched a young lady on YouTube a couple of days ago who has no family at all. Father was never in the picture. Her mother passed away a couple of years ago. She's a single mother of four, and the father of those children is in jail facing about 30 years for SA to one of her children, if you know what I mean. So she doesn't have anybody, and she's sitting here on YouTube crying, wishing and that she just had a family that she could just fall back on because she's going through such a hard time right now. There is absolutely no shame at all moving back home to stack up your bread. It is hard out here, folks. It is really, really difficult for people to survive right here in these streets. There's a lot of people who can't even live on their own. Like, they got to get roommates. They got to move in with people. I've seen people have to move back in with exes that they don't even want to be with just to keep themselves off of the streets. Having to come together, two and three, four people just to live in an apartment together. It's really difficult out here. And there should be no shame if you have to move back home with your mom or move back home with your dad. Like, consider it a grace period to where, you can take your paychecks and not make silly purchases. Don't buy those Jordans. Don't buy that watch. Don't even think about going out there trying to put a down payment on a car. Utilize that money to invest. Try to create some residual income so that you're in a little bit of a better financial situation. You can't do any of that stuff when you're up against the wall, but you can do that if you have the opportunity to actually go back home and live with your parents. Now, I know some of you are like, I'm grown. I don't want to live with my mom and my dad. I shouldn't have to listen to their rules and all of this stuff. Look, whoever's the king of the castle has to make the rules up. I'm sorry. But you should want to respect your mother and father's home anyway. So that shouldn't even be a question. Just tell yourself and consider it. This is just a short duration of time in my life where I need to fall back on the safety net of my parents and stack up my bread and come up with a game plan to where I don't fall back into this position again. It's really hard creating that game plan when you're at war with your bills. It's really hard creating that game plan when everything is due and you got to go to work and trials and storms keep happening back to back to back to back. Some people never ever get that relief. And because they don't get that relief, this is why we see a lot of people living on the streets. Every day I drive to work and I see people literally laying on the concrete, sleep, on the bus stop, sleep, up under a tree, on the patio of churches, sleep, and got nowhere to go. Grown men and women looking like they well over the age of 50, 60 something years old. I don't wish that upon nobody. Like nobody. Now, if you got a mom and you got a dad and life is just hard for you right now, and you just feel like you need some relief, then you may want to consider going back home for a little bit, for a couple of months, maybe like 3 months, 6 months. It's okay. Don't let anybody shame you into thinking that you're lame or a bum because you went back home to your parents to recover. Not in this society. That's not okay. In this society right now, nobody should be judging you. Nobody has room to be judging anybody because we're all just trying to make it right now. It can happen to the best of us. It can happen to any of us. You understand? So do whatever it is you got to do to make things happen out here. Most important of all, put yourself in the position, if you're able, like I said, if you can go home and recreate a game plan, strategy that will keep you out of that position in the future, that's ultimately the plan. I've seen people who are 40 plus years old have to move in with their parents and rebuild, and then eventually were able to move out and get themselves a house and restart. There's nothing wrong with restarting. People restart at 40. People restart life at 50. Some people even restart life at 60 years old. There is no limit. You do what it is you have to do for you. It is your story. It is your life. And anybody else got a problem with that, they can kick rocks. If you can relate to this video, comment down below if you got a story that you want to share with everybody of recovery. Some sort of financial burden in which you might have hit. I'd love to hear it. I'm sure people in the community would love to hear it too. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it if you feel compelled. Peace.